נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולו מצה.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שער ירקות, שער ירקות. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות איננו מטבילים אפילו פעם אחת, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שתי פעמים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שתי פעמים. מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבים ובין מסובים, בין יושבים ובין מסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות? מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, שכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולו מצה, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שער ירקות. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שבכל הלילות איננו מטבילים אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שתי
Hello everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to Torah L'Chaim. With me, your host, Rabbi Anibal Mas. Here from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, we have a lot of snow. So I hope you're home, staying safe. Don't play hero. Don't try to go anywhere until the streets get cleaned. And if you're home, you can enjoy this Torah class. I'm wearing my matzah pajamas in preparation for my first Seder. That is going to be a PJ Seder, as we've been advertising. So, welcome everyone. Hi Mara, Judy Sharak, Shelly Chochinov, Sarah Bloomberg, Maria is here, Reen Albaz is here as well. Let's see, yeah. It's very convenient to wear this pajama. If I get hungry, I can get a snack. So cool. We are all going to wear matching pajamas for the first Seder. It's an online Seder, PJ Seder. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Hi, Holly and Denise. Welcome to the class. So the introduction that you heard before, the first version is a production of the clergy team. First voice was Leslie, then was me, then was Tali Milo, and finally Dr. Rina. And the second version was my son singing, and you heard a little bit of my wife playing the cello at the end. So the video, it's a video production actually. Just play the audio. The video production of the first version, the traditional Manishtana, is going to go out, I believe, tomorrow to the whole congregation. It's going to be uploaded to Facebook and YouTube, and an email is going to go out with a link to watch it. The second version is going to be premiered, the video, at my Seder, at the first Seder, and then it's going to be uploaded at a standalone video next week sometimes. But if you want to see the video of my son singing and my wife playing the cello, you have to tune in for the first Seder, the PJ Seder. We're going to do it there. Okay? Hi, Randy. Hello, Karen Farkas. Welcome. Yeah. For those of you who didn't hear, a lot of snow in Winnipeg, but it looks like it's going to be okay for the Sedarim. It's looked like it's going to be okay. That we didn't have as much snow as we thought we were going to have. So I'm pretty sure the city of Winnipeg is doing a great job clearing the street as we speak. So hopefully everything will be okay, and we will have a nice in-person Seder for the second night and a fun online Seder for the first night. So if you need an online Seder, tune in to mine, PJ Seder. And I like to say that it's going to be the most relaxed Seder in the galaxy. You have to tune in. Priscilla Kerr is here. Mary Nason is here. Leon Pinkovich. CJ Rosenfeld is here. Welcome. Look at this. Lot of snow. Yeah. Your pajamas are not crunchy. No, are very soft. It's a very, I have to say, very good quality cotton. So it's very nice. Hello, Roberto Franco. Welcome. We're going to start studying. Remember, I said that this class is going to be to get you all ready for Pesach. So let's get to it. It's very important. And again, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. And you can always give us the thumbs up as well anytime you feel like. Okay. You have it here. Seder plate. I hope you have one. But I wanted to... Yes, Mara, Rabbi Green, he showed up on Saturday. He didn't tell anybody. He just showed up at synagogue on Saturday. So I had a chance to see him and shake his hand. It's a very nice surprise. Very nice surprise for everybody. I don't know if he's back on the States or he's going to spend Pesach here. I have no idea. Okay, so Seder plate, very important. I hope you have yours. You need one for a Seder. Okay? It doesn't have to be a fancy one like this. All you have to do is just to have the elements and put it in front of you. That's all you need. Okay? So I want to start this class talking a little bit about what we have for the Seder plate. Very important. Very important. So you see there you have the egg, the bitter herb. Actually, we have two bitter herbs. We're going to talk more about that, why we need two. We have the Shank Bone, we have the Charoset, we have a little bit of parsley, which is called the Karpas. Could be any green vegetable will do there for the Karpas, except for romaine lettuce. You see why. Then you need a little bit of salt water, and you're going to need at least 3 matzot for display, plus whatever matzah you want for your own Seder. Okay? So let's start talking about what you see here. So I'm going to start with the Karpas. The green vegetables. Most people use parsley. I actually don't like parsley. It's funny, when everybody is enjoying their Karpas, putting it in salt water and eating it, to me is worse than the maror. And then you will say, okay, use celery, even worse. I don't like celery. I dislike the texture. I dislike the juice that comes into your mouth when you bite it. So no, I suffer with the parsley or the Karpas. It's not my thing. Denise, is there a substitute for the egg? Well, this egg here, you don't have to eat it, this one. And we are going to talk about that. Otherwise, the egg, it's just a representation. I guess because it's not eaten, if you don't feel like having an egg because you're vegan, you can probably put a photo there. It's just to remember something. It's a reminder, which I don't want to say it yet. It will be a spoiler because it's part of the class. Okay? So remind me, Denise, and ask me again when we talk about the egg. Okay. So let's start with the Karpas. So Karpas, what is it? It's a vegetable other than bitter herbs. Remember that. It had not be bitter. So it's celery, parsley, or boiled potato. I think that's what I'm going to do this year. Boiled potato. Yes. It must be a vegetable on which we can make the blessing borei pri ha'adama. So anything that you say borei pri ha'adama, any vegetable that grows from the earth and it's not bitter, you're welcome to do it. Okay? So why we do that is very simple. Because Passover is the spring festival where we celebrate the birth of our nation. And these vegetables are a symbol of rebirth and rejuvenation. So it's a very simple thing. It's a reminder of springtime. Believe me, in Winnipeg, we are going to need a reminder. Because otherwise, many people won't even remember that it's spring. All you have to do is to look out of the window and say, is it really spring? Why do we have so much snow? What can I say? Okay. So that's Karpas. Very simple. So what you do when it's time for you to eat it, you dip it in salt water. You can see actually the picture up there of the celery with salt water, and you eat it. Okay? Now, this is the next one that is always confusing for people. Maror and chazeret. Okay? They're both considered bitter herbs. Let me explain. Let me read this and then I will explain. These are the bitter herbs which symbolize the lot of the Hebrew slaves whose lives were embittered by the hard labor of the Egyptians. So many people use horseradish for maror and romaine lettuce for chazeret. So not every Seder plate will have 2 spots. Sometimes it's only maror. If that's yours, there is nothing wrong with it. It's just a different tradition. But most plates, we have 2 spots for bitter herbs. Maror and chazeret. So you will see maror is the horseradish, generally. So if you have a spot there for the maror, just put the horseradish there, the grain if you have. Or you can put just pure horseradish. Now, if you can eat it, you're my hero. It's very difficult to eat. But if you can, that's what you do. And then the other one, the chazeret, is the romaine lettuce. The bottom, actually. not the leaf itself, but the bottom of the romaine lettuce, if you buy it, is bitter. Believe it or not, the most traditional one is not the horseradish. It's the lettuce, the romaine lettuce. That is the original bitter herb that probably the rabbis ate back 2,000 years ago. But the interesting thing, and this is why do we have sometimes two bitter herbs in the plate, is because we need to use them in two different parts of the service. I say, well, but we can use the same. Yes, except that in the Mishnah are 5 species of bitter herbs mentioned. And that they are Chazeret, Ulshin, Tamcha, Harchavina, and Maror. And that's why, so the Mishnah mentions 5, but we need 2 for the Seder, so the rabbis decided to use Maror and Chazeret. Okay? That's why we have most of the plate with 2 spots, because you will need the Maror 2 different moments. One is pure Maror that you eat, and the other one is the sandwich that you have to make in remembrance of what Hillel used to do, and that will be one part of the Haggadah. If you remember, you have to make this little sandwich. So now you know, and you can share with your people in the Seder why most plates will have 2 spots. Because the Mishnah mentions 5 different bitter herbs, and we need 2. Okay? I hope that was clear. Let's see. I have some questions here. Denise, you said, oh, you're allergic to egg. I see. Yeah. I understand you want to waste, but most people will waste it because that egg there is not eaten, ever. It's just for display. It's like the Shank Bone. It's just for display. After the Seder, you put it in the garbage. Brick and mortars is Marabarsky. No, that will be the Charoset. Don't confuse Chazeret with Charoset. They are 2 different things. Yeah, the paste that remind us of the brick and mortars is the Charoset. I'm going to talk about in the next slide. Let me see. Denise, can I use daikon instead of horseradish? I have no clue what daikon is. So, but if bitter, why not? If it's bitter, yeah, you know what? This is what happened with me, because the maror to me is not bitter, it's spicy. So I don't enjoy it as maror. But hey, what do I know? So let's talk about the charoset then. Charoset reminds us of the hard Jewish labor performed with bricks and mortar. Charoset is a pasty mixture of nuts, dates, apples, wine, and cinnamon. Okay? And you have there, the original ingredients and then how it gets transformed into that paste that we put a little bit on the Seder plate. You need to have more, because remember, you see, this is the thing. You have to remember that everything that you put in the Seder plate is for display. You don't touch it. If you're going to use any of the elements for part of the Seder, you need extra. Okay, so the maror that is in the Seder plate is not the maror that you're going to use for the Seder. You need to distribute maror for the rest of the people. Say with the chazeret, or say with the charoset. If the charoset is there for display, then you're going to need another container that you're going to pass around for people to eat. Okay, Marabarski number 60. I forget now. Come on, come on. Okay, so remember, you have to. You need extra of everything. Okay. But why? So remember, this is reason number 1 why we eat the charoset. It's the remembrance of the brick and mortar. But there is another explanation of what the charoset that I bet you never heard. And this is a fun fact. The Talmud says that the charoset serves as an antiseptic to dilute the harsh effects of the maror. So the Talmud said that it has nothing to do with the brick and mortar, even though it kind of looks like it, but it's something sweet that we eat after eating the maror, so your tongue won't die in the middle of the Seder. So that's another explanation that you can used to explain at the Seder why we have the charoset in our plates. That's very interesting, right? Now, the other thing that we have is the shank bone, or any bone. Shank bone could be like chicken bones, and any bone will do. Any bone will do. If you're a vegan, you can put a photo again or something, because everything that you put on the Seder is in remembrance of. Remember, you don't need anything. It's just to remember something, right? So be creative. Be creative, because the rabbi said you need to have that so you will remember. So you do whatever you have to do to remember certain things. Oh, Mario said, okay, I see. The way you used to teach it. I understand. Okay. So let's talk about the zeroa, the bone. Why do we have it there? Well, because during the times of the temple in Jerusalem, the Korban Pesach, Paschal lamb, was brought to the temple on the eve of Passover. It was roasted and was the last thing eaten at the Seder meal. To commemorate this offering, we place a roasted chicken bone, or with a little bit meat remaining if you want, or some other bone. In the Torah, the Paschal lamb was eaten with neighbors and friends. So the Talmud says that the bigger the group, the better. This is the source for having large Seder gatherings. Do you know that? You know that that's why we have the tradition to invite people over? Because the Torah said so? The Torah says that the very first time that they ate the lamb, they have to be sure that if your lamb was too big for your family, you had to share it with the family next door or with other people. So if you were all by yourself, you didn't have to sacrifice the lamb. You could go join somebody else. So it's very interesting. So the large gathering for Pesach, they have biblical precedence. And that's another of the things that we remember when we look at the bone at the... there. Okay? So, let's continue. What else I wanted to say here about the Zeroa? I feel like I'm... Oh, yeah, because basically Pesach is, how you say it? Pesach is only that night. You know, today, in these days, we believe that we observe Pesach for a whole week. But technically, that's not Pesach. Pesach is only the first night, and in the diaspora, the second night as well. The rest of the week is Chag Matzot. It's the festival of the matzah. But this is also Zeroa, is the remembrance of what Pesach used to be back in the day. It was, of course, about the meal that we are eating, but it was also about presenting this offering at the temple. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that the Sephardic tradition is never to have lamb as a dish for the Seder. You know that? You know that? That the Ashkenazi tradition is never to have lamb because we cannot sacrifice the lamb in the temple anymore. So the rabbis decided that we don't eat it. Now, interestingly enough, Sephardic tradition is they do eat lamb for Pesach because that used to be the meal back at the time. So because Priscilla said, why? Well, because we cannot sacrifice the lamb anymore. That's why we don't eat it. It's just, the rabbi said, if we cannot eat the lamb the way it should be done, with sacrifice at the temple, then we don't have it at all. But that's the Ashkenazi. The Sephardic, they do have it in remembrance. Okay, so yes, you can have it. You can have it, but that's the tradition. Hello, Andrea. Welcome to the class. You're never late. You can always go back to the beginning, after the class. Okay, now, Denise and everybody else who asked before, the egg, and you have to kind of roast it as well, almost like the shank bone. Why? This is where everybody gets wrong at the Seder. Pay attention to this. The egg represents another offering, another sacrifice that used to be presented at the temple. It was a second offering called the Haggadah, and it was brought to the temple and eaten as a main course of the Seder meal. Today, instead of a second piece of meat, we use a roasted egg, which is traditionally a symbol of mourning to remind us of the destruction of the temple. We cannot present the Haggadah anymore, so we kind of roast in the same that we used to roast the sacrifice, a symbol of mourning. Why? Again, because everything in front of us in the Seder should help us remember something else. So with Beitzah, we remember the Haggadah. Okay? So the Talmud points out that every year, the first day of Passover falls out also on the same day of the week as Tisha B'Av, the day of mourning for the destruction of the temple. You know that this is also very interesting. Hello, I'm Peach. Welcome to the class. So this is also very interesting. The way the Jewish calendar is built, it guarantees that if Pesach starts on a Friday night, Tisha B'Av will also start on a Friday night. So there is a connection there, and it's also we get reminded about that for the Beitzah. Priscilla, so you boil the egg and then roast it. Yeah, that's a tradition. That's a tradition. But again, it's just for visual. It's just to remember the temple. So the bone and the egg both remind us of the temple. The bone about the Pesach, the Korban Pesach, the Pesach sacrifice, and the Beitzah, it's about the Haggadah offering. Okay? The two things that we have there. Very good. Now that we talk about what is on the plate, unless you have other questions, what I wanted to talk about is other things. Yeah, you can just roast it, put on a little bit of fire so it gets that little color. Just as a reminder of how sacrifices used to be, right? So, the other thing that is we have to talk about are the 4 cups. The 4 cups of wine. Something that you will it's characteristic of the Seder. In fact, the number 4 is prominent on Pesach. 4 cups, 4 questions, 4 children. 4. Everything is 4. Actually, it's 5. But I will talk more about that when we talk about the cup of Eliyahu. Everything is not 4, it's 5, but the 5 is hidden. Don't let me forget about that. Don't let me forget about that. I want to explain why it's 4, but it's also 5. Okay? So, why we have 4 cups of wine? Many explanations, but one is because each of the 4 mitzvot we perform at the Seder are all done over a full cup of wine. The 4 mitzvot are the Kidush, the Magid, because we gather to tell the story of the Exodus. The Birkat HaMazon is a mitzvah. You have to say grace after the meals, according to the rabbis. And then we have a special version of Hallel that is not commonly done at night, but it is at Passover and it's done with a blessing, so it's a mitzvah. So we add a 4th cup of wines. That's why we have that. Karen Farkas, but Tisha B'Av started on Saturday night this year. Well, because it cannot start on Shabbat, it gets delayed. It gets delayed because the fast, you cannot fast on Shabbat, but technically the calendar should be the same day. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about so again, 4 cups of wine, each one for each of the mitzvah of the Seder. But there is more symbolism to the cups of wine. Let's talk about that. Okay, the rabbis explain the background to the 4 cups by associating them with the 4 expression of redemption initially promised by God. Okay, so why 4? Why everything is 4? Because when God promised us liberation, that promise came with 4 expressions of redemption. And the 4 expressions, each representing one of the cups, each representing one of the sons, each representing one of the questions. Everything is 4, right? The 4 expressions are, I will take you out from under the crushing burdens of Egypt, and I will save you from their servitude, and I will redeem you with great judgments and an outstretched arm, and I will take you to me as a people. Okay? So those are the 4 expressions of redemption. But there are more explanations of why the number 4, and this is amazing. Let me bring the next one and I will explain in a minute. The rabbis also connect the 4th cup of wine with the 4 cups on the butler's dream. Remember the story of Joseph? When Joseph was in jail and he successfully interpreted the dreams of the butler and the baker. He said to the butler, your dream means that you're going to be freed, you're going to be liberated, you're going to go back serving the Pharaoh. And to the baker said, sorry dude, you're going to die. And Joseph was right. The butler went back to the palace and the baker was killed, was executed. So, but why? What happened here? And I will explain in a minute. It says the 4 cups of the butler dream. Why? The 4 cups of the Seder night also correspond to the 4 times the word cup appears in the dream which Pharaoh's butler recounted to Joseph. If you go back and read the story, the 4th cup appears 4 times. According to the Maharal, the Maharal of Prague, Joseph's personal experience in Egypt had a direct bearing on the national experience of the Jewish people later on. In a sense, Joseph paved the way for a positive outcome. The roots of the exodus from Egypt could be said to be found in the ascendancy of Joseph all those years ago. And that began with this accurate and auspicious interpretation of the butler's dream. Therefore, when celebrating our exodus, we remember the 4 cups mentioned in that dream. Yeah, because remember, after this, Joseph was made prime minister of Egypt, and then after that, his brothers came to Egypt, and then everything else, you know what happened. Eventually, he ended up with slavery. Yeah, it was positive for a generation, but then it started to deteriorate. But everything started with the dream of the baker and the butler. That's the beginning. And in the dream of the butler, the expression, the cup of wine appears 4 times. But I will ask you, how many cups of wine do we actually have on the table at the Seder? Let's see who's the first one answering that. Sarah Bloomer, and the candlestick maker. Candlestick maker? Okay, so how many cups of wine? Oh, okay, it's a palm. We have 5, because we also have the Elijah cup. And the thing is, we have 5 because there is a 5th expression of redemption. There is. Remember, the first one was Exodus chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. But then verse 8 says, and I will bring you into the land. That's the 5th expression, which I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I will give it to you for a possession. I am God. So, in truth, there is also a 5th expression of redemption in God's communication to Moses, the promise that I will bring you to the land. Indeed, there is a corresponding 5th cup of wine, the cup of Elijah, that is filled during the final stage of the Seder, except that this cup of wine is not drunk. Why? Because this hasn't happened yet. The rabbis understand that the 5th expression corresponds to the Messianic era. So that's why we don't drink the cup. So, in other words, what the rabbis explain is the number 4 is explicit in the Seder. The number 5 is implicit. The potential is there, but it hasn't materialized yet. So we have the 4th expression for now, but the 5th is going to happen in the future. That's why we have the cup, but we don't drink it. Who comes to partake from the cup? Elijah. Elijah is the one who is going to announce the coming of the Messiah. Can you connect the dots now? And I said, we have, for example, the 4 children at the Seder. But do we really have 4 children? Well, let's count. We have the wise, we have the wicked, we have the simple, right? And we have the one who doesn't know how to ask. But what about the one who is not even there? The child that is not even present at the Seder is not even a wicked one, because even the wicked one is there, challenging you, yes, but it's there. It's at the Seder. So who cares if he's challenging everything? At least it's there. The fifth is somewhere. And the rabbis say that sometimes we won't see that fifth, the one who is disconnected. But it's necessary. We have to do something to bring that fifth child into the flock. We have to bring the fifth child back into Judaism. And it seems to be a necessary step to bring the Messiah and to bring redemption to the world, with nobody will be left behind. Same happened with the fourth question. We said that there are 4 questions, the Manishtana, but actually there are 5 questions. You know that? The thing is, the 5th question was dropped because it's the one that says, on every night we eat meat, either boiled or roasted. Tonight, only roasted. We don't read it because we don't have the temple anymore. When are we going to have the temple again? With the coming of the Messiah. And then the 5th question is going to make its way back to the Seder. Okay? So 4 is everywhere, but the 5th is kind of there trying to say, hey, I'm here, do something so I will be able to be present at the Seder. What can we do? Bring redemption to the world. Carlos Valerio said, hello, what about the extra cup for Miriam? Because yeah, that's a new thing. That's a new thing. It's some people add the Miriam cup but you see, I don't add it because Moses is not present. That's the thing. And I think that's the mistake, and that's why I decided not to incorporate the Miriam cup, because if you read the Haggadah, Moses is not present anywhere. It's not that he said, well, there is a symbol of Moses, which is a male figure, so let's have a symbol of Miriam, who is a female figure. But purposely, the rabbis removed the name of Moses on any hint of Moses from the Haggadah. Why? Because it's a whole night to focus in the presence of God and the presence of God alone. We don't believe that Moses took us out of Egypt. We believe that God took us out of Egypt. But I understand some people add a Miriam's cup with water. Yeah. And on the Seder. Yeah. Hello, Carlos Valerio. Didn't see that you were in the class, so welcome. Okay. So, yeah, that is nothing wrong with put it, but I'm just saying why I don't do it. I don't do it. Sarah Blimber said, what? Isn't he the one who goes to speak to Pharaoh? Yeah. Of course. You read the Torah. Moses is there. Miriam is there. But in the Haggadah, the name of Moses is not present. Don't believe me? Go check. Go check. It's not part of the Haggadah. Okay. This is around, I wanted to show you just briefly what is on the table. Now, let's go to the Haggadah. Okay? These are the steps of the Seder. Let's go quickly over this, and then let's see how much time we have to go through the steps of the Seder, and I would like to give you a few insights so you can understand it better, or maybe, hey, who knows? You can even share some of this information with your people at the Seder. Okay? The steps are Kadesh, which sounds like Kidush, right? Because it is the Kidush. It's the blessing over the first cup of wine. Then you have Urhats, ritual washing of hands without the usual blessing. Karpas, eating some leafy greens or green vegetables. Yachats, raising up and breaking the middle matzah. And by the way, this might be the only hint, the presence of Moses, the Afikoman. You know that? Because the fact that we break the middle matzah, which represents the tribe of Levi, okay? We break it and we wrap it and we hide it. Some people seems to imply that it represents Moses that came from the tribe of Levi and he was wrapped and hidden. But if you believe that, the presence of Miriam is also implied that, because Miriam was the one keeping an eye on the baby all the time. So whoever is in charge of keeping an eye of the Afikoman so the kids won't steal it before it's time to play that game, it's also a representation of Miriam. Okay, let's continue. Then we have the Magid, long part, and that is the telling of the Exodus story. That's why we are gathered. Then we have the Rachtza, which is actually the Netilat Yadayim, as you know it from any other festival. Then we have the Motzi, blessing over matzah and the meal, because remember, when you bless bread, matzah is bread, you don't need any other blessing for any other part of the food. Okay, it's an umbrella. It's an umbrella blessing. Then we have another special blessing over the matzah specifically, and this time emphasizing the special nature of eating matzah as a Passover ritual act. Then we eat the bitter herbs, the maror, and then the korech. We eat the sandwich of matzah and bitter herbs. Okay? And you add a little bit of charoset in that sandwich. So remember I mentioned before, that's why we have maror and chazeret. So for the maror, you use the maror in your plate, and for the korech, you use the chazeret. Then you have shulchan orech, which is the festive meal. This is when, let's eat. That's what it is. Then after you finish eating, you have to find, you have to redeem, or you have to negotiate with the kids to give you the Afikoman back, and then everybody eats a little bit of the Afikoman. And then we have the Barech, which is the Birkat Hamazon, right? Yes, Birkat Hamazon. Do you know what is Birkat Hamazon? No. Birkat Hamazon is not a blessing that you say when you buy something online. That is Amazon. This is Birkat HaMazon, which is the great after meals that we say every time after we finish a meal that started with a motzi. If you don't have a meal starting with a motzi, there is a special blessing that you say at the end. Then we have the Hallel. Very unusual to sing it at night, okay? They are just psalms of praise to God. And then you have Nirtza, the conclusion. Sorry, I remember. I can put sound to your words. So, those are the steps of the Seder. Let's go through the steps one by one. Kadesh, the Kidush. So, we begin the Seder. To begin the Seder, we make Kidush and sanctify the day. The word Kidush comes from the word Kadosh, means special. You know that? The Kadosh means special? And the first step to personal freedom is to recognize that each one of us, it's not which on, is which each one. I want to do it like this. Each one of us is special. We have a distinct combination of talents, skills, and experiences that qualifies you to make a contribution to the world. Slavery is a life with no accomplishments. Have you realized that? You realize that? Slavery, let me say it again. Slavery is a life with no accomplishments, no achievements, and no meaning. So on Passover, we begin our journey towards personal freedom by asking, what is humanity's biggest need? What can I contribute most profoundly to nurture and protect the world? What am I going to do about it? So all that is encapsulated in the Kiddush. That question. We make the day special because we recognize that when something is special, it's something that is teaching you. And then you recognize that Pesach is special, but you are, as a free person, you're also special. So the same way they say, okay, Pesach is special and it's bringing all these wonderful things to the world. What am I bringing to the world? And I think it's not a coincidence that that's the first step of the Seder, realizing how special we are. Immediately after, and this is kind of interesting, and I get lots of questions about this, is the Urhats. And this is the when you wash your hands without a blessing. So the question is, why do we wash our hands at this point of the Seder? Because, we wash our hands before eating bread. You say, okay, so I will wait and I will wash my hands before eating matzah. But why now? Well, the Talmud says any food that is dipped into a liquid requires washing of the hands before it is eaten. Many people don't wash their hands year-round before eating wet foods, right? Presumably relying on the lenient opinion that this rule doesn't apply nowadays. Yeah, because they say that was something that happened at the time of the temple, but we don't have to do it anymore. And we wash our hands for different reasons in this day. So if it's not a mitzvah, we don't do it. Nevertheless, the rabbis say, when it comes to Passover Seder, everyone washes their hands before the Karpas. Why? Because this dipping is more significant than other dippings during the year, since it is done as a part of the Seder, and is therefore treated with more respect and stringency. Remember that everything about Pesach is more stringent than the rest of the year. Look at the laws of kashrut. What is kosher? What is not kosher? Well, on Pesach, kashrut is more stringent. There is a rule that applies all year round that is called batel beshishim, 1/60th. That means if you have something that is kosher and by accident it gets contaminated with something that is not kosher, if you calculate that the contamination is less than 1/60th, the food is still kosher. But that rule does not apply for Pesach. Why? Because everything is more stringent on Pesach. So this is the same thing. It seems to be a law that used to happen at the time of the temple. Every time before you eat something that has to be dipped, you have to wash your hands. So, but during the year we don't do it, but on Pesach, because everything is more stringent, we do. Okay? Sarah Bloomberg, can we eat egg noodles on Pesach? I don't remember if they have wheat, and I don't know. You have to be sure they don't have wheat. They are actually egg noodles on the supermarket that they are kosher for Passover. I saw them. Shelly Chochinov, yeah, they are, but check it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure where you live, Sarah, they have plenty of things for Passover. Okay, let's continue with the next step, which is the Karpas. The sages therefore instituted a number of rituals during the Seder for the sole purpose of arousing the child's curiosity and prompting questions. Right? As I mentioned before, when I said, do I have to have a bone? Do I have to have an egg? Many of the things that you have there is just for kids to ask questions. So sometimes it would be funny if you have a Seder. Instead of the bone, you put a photo of, a roasted lamb. And then the kids will say, whoa, what's that there? Why do you put a photo? Oh, thanks for asking me. Let me tell you why. Right? So you can do that also as a teaching tool. So one of the things that we do for that reason specifically is the Karpas. Okay? And not only the Karpas, but we dip it. We dip it on the salt water before we eat it. So we take a vegetable that would normally only be eaten as part of the meal, dip it and eat it before the meal, thus prompting the child to ask why we are doing things differently tonight. The common custom is to dip the vegetable into salt water or vinegar, symbolizing the tears the Jews shed during the servitude. So you have an opportunity to explain to the kids, this is what we do it because our ancestors cried. So we feel the sadness through the eating of the Karpas. It's a teaching tool. Okay? But it's interesting. One of the 4 questions for the Manishtana is all year round, we don't dip. I mean, what do you mean we don't dip? There is a whole industry about dipping, right? Dips everywhere. So what do you mean you don't dip? Well, this is coming from the time that dipping was customary to happen during meals. Yeah, when you are eating, like in a meal, even today, you go to the Middle East, you will see that they dip everything on hummus, on baba ganoush, and other things, but everything happens after you break bread, never before. So this is very odd. So when the Haggadah was written, the kids would ask, well, what do we do it before we even break bread? Why? So remember, we did the Karpas, dipping number 1, Karpas in salt water, dipping number 2, the maror and the haroset. Okay? Why do we do it? Now, there are also another explanation of why we dip twice, and it's related that, as I mentioned, the beginning of slavery started with Joseph. Joseph going to Egypt. Do you remember how in this world Joseph ended up in Egypt? Well, it was because of what his brothers did to him. Remember that they sold him as a slave, but they kept his tunic, his jacket, and they dipped the jacket, the tunic, on blood of an animal, and they went to their father and said, "Isn't this Joseph's tunic? Isn't that his coat in blood? Pretty sure he's dead." And that's what the beginning. So the beginning of slavery actually started with that dipping. And the rabbis say that slavery ended with another dipping. And that was when they dipped this improvised brushes with blood, and they put it around the door frame. And the rabbis explained that they play with the words. And they said one dip started the galut, which means the diaspora, because they have to leave Israel. And the second dip was the prelude to the Geulah, redemption. So the two dips are also in remembrance of the blood on the coat that started everything, and the blood on the door frames that ended everything. Okay, yeah, it began with blood and ended with blood. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, the thing. But that's probably has a way deeper meaning. But just let's keep it with that. And I think if you explain in your Seders that we dip twice because in a remembrance of two different dips, you're going to do great with your people, and they are going to be very, very impressed. So let's do one more here. Oh my God, time flies. So, Urhats, next step. Before we begin to tell the story of the Exodus, we take the middle matzah. Remember the ones that are stuck usually under the Seder or on top of the Seder, and we split it into two parts. We return the smaller half to its place between the other two matzahs, and we place the larger half in a bag, or we wrap it in a cloth, and then set it aside. You hide it. The matzah that is set aside is called the Afikoman, and it is eaten for dessert after the Seder meal. The simple reason that we put the Afikoman aside or hide it is because we will eat this matzah only near the very end of the Seder, and we don't wait. We don't want it to get mixed up with the other matzahs at the table. So, and there is another reason. Is what if you eat all the matzah? I don't know if it ever happened to you. What if you eat all the matzah on the table? I don't know, hungry people. And then you need matzah to finish at the end. Oops, I don't have any. So you hide a little bit of matzah beforehand, just to be sure, right? Just to be sure that you will have at the end. The other reason why we do this is, the reason why do we have to finish the Seder with matzah? Because remember, the law is that once you eat the Afikoman, you are not allowed to eat anything else except for the cups of wine. So why? And the rabbis explain that we need to finish the Seder with the taste, with the flavor of the matzah. Why? To remember why we gathered. Because after a large meal, 4 cups of wine, jokes, laughter, people at the table sharing stories, which is so good. But then the risk is that you may forget why you are there. You're not there for the jokes. You are not there to share stories. You're not there to gossip about other people. You're there to remember the Exodus. How do you do that? Well, after the meal, that I hope is going to be great, we finish with matzah. I said, oh, okay, thank you for the reminder. This is why we are here. So basically you close the Seder with the taste of Pesach. And that's the idea. Let's do one more. Magid. And I want to cover this one because it's the most important one. The most important one. The sages tell us that the ability given to humanity is the power of speech. Speech is the tool of building and construction. God used to create the world. God used it to create the world. Used speech. And God said, let it be light. So, Seder night, we use our gift of speech for the central part of the Haggadah, telling the Passover story. The very word Pesach is a contraction of the word pe, mouth, sach, meaning the mouth speaks. You know, when the conversation in Hebrew, even in modern Hebrew, is called sicha, conversation. So Pesach, the mouth speaks. It's another interpretation of the word Pesach. So the Hebrew name for Pharaoh, on the other hand, is a combination of pe, ra, meaning the bad mouth. Oh, I hope you will use this in your Seder. You will. Everybody said, "Wow!" For just as speech has the power to build, it also has the power to destroy. Gossip and slander drive apart families and communities. You see, actually, when we go back to the first dipping, the one of Joseph's brother, everything started with an act of gossip and usage of language in a bad way when they went to convince their father that Joseph was dead. Think about that. On Passover, we use the speech to build humanity by communicating, connecting, and encouraging each other. We stay up long into the night, relating the story of our Exodus, tasting and sharing the joy of freedom. Okay, and I have to stop it here. We ran out of time. Woo! Yeah. Well, I hope you can use some of this material for your Sederim. If you don't remember everything that I said, don't worry. Everything, remember, stays on Facebook, on YouTube. You can go and replay it. And I hope you can bring some of these insights into your celebration, or I hope maybe something that I said was motivational or was encouraging, was uplifting for you. And that's the idea, to prepare yourself for a meaningful celebration of Pesach. Believe me, we need it here in Winnipeg with so many difficulties, with the snow and so much uncertainty. And so let's encourage each other so we can celebrate a wonderful, wonderful festival of Passover. Okay? So again, give us the thumbs up for this video. You can share it. Please subscribe to our channel. It will be great. It will be great. So have a wonderful Passover. Wonderful Passover. And this class is going to be restreamed tonight at 8 p.m. Okay? And for the Sederim, if you want to tune into our streams, because both Seders are going to be streamed. First one is online only. Second one is hybrid. It means that we are going to have people in the building. First night, Friday at 5:30 p.m. Second night is going to be at 6:15 p.m. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Chag Sameach. Hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.